August 14th, 2025. Lectionary 416 reading 1 Joshua 3-7-1 away 11:13-17. The Lord said to Joshua, "Today I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know I am with you, as I was with Moses. Now command the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant to come to a halt in the Jordan when you reach the edge of the waters." So Joshua said to the children of Israel, "Come here and listen to the words of the Lord, your God. This is how you will know that there is a living God in your midst, who at your approach will dispossess the Canaanites. The Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of the whole earth will precede you into the Jordan. When the soles of the feet of the priests carrying the Ark of the Lord of the whole earth, touch the water of the Jordan, it will cease to flow. For the water flowing down from upstream will halt in a solid bank." The people struck their tents to cross the Jordan, with the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant ahead of them. No sooner had these priestly bearers of the Ark waded into the waters at the edge of the Jordan, which overflows all its banks during the entire season of the harvest, than the waters flowing from upstream halted, backing up in a solid mass for a very great distance indeed, from Adam, a city in the direction of Zarethan, while those flowing downstream toward the salt sea of the Arabah disappeared entirely. Thus the people crossed over opposite Jericho, while all Israel crossed over on dry ground. The priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord remained motionless on dry ground in the bed of the Jordan until the whole nation had completed the passage. Reflections. In this passage from the book of Joshua, the Lord speaks to Joshua, assuring him that he will perform another miracle for the children of Israel to confirm that he, the living God, remains present among them. God is not a distant memory or a silent spirit, but active and ever-present, guiding his people with power and love. God instructs Joshua to have the priests carry the Ark of the Covenant into the Jordan River. As soon as their feet touch the water, the river will stop flowing, forming a wall upstream, allowing all of Israel to cross on dry ground, just as their ancestors had done at the Red Sea. This miracle affirms Joshua's leadership and reminds the people that God's promises endure. As Catholics, we see in this event a call to deep trust in God's providence. Just as the Israelites followed the Ark, the sign of God's presence, we are called to follow Christ, truly present in the Eucharist. We are his children, called to obey with faith, as children trust a loving Father. In every moment of uncertainty, may we remember that our God is not absent. He is alive, he is with us, and he goes before us. Let us follow him in humility, in hope, and in steadfast faith. Gospel Matthew 18:21-19-1. Peter approached Jesus and asked him, "Lord, if my brother sins against me, how often must I forgive him? As many as 7 times?" Jesus answered, "I say to you, not 7 times, but 77 times. That is why the kingdom of heaven may be likened to a king who decided to settle accounts with his servants. When he began the accounting, a debtor was brought before him who owed him a huge amount. Since he had no way of paying it back, his master ordered him to be sold, along with his wife, his children, and all his property, in payment of the debt. At that, the servant fell down, did him homage, and said, 'Be patient with me, and I will pay you back in full.' Moved with compassion, the master of that servant let him go and forgave him the loan. When that servant had left, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him a much smaller amount. He seized him and started to choke him, demanding, "Pay back what you owe." Falling to his knees, his fellow servant begged him, "Be patient with me, and I will pay you back." But he refused. Instead, he had the fellow servant put in prison until he paid back the debt. Now, when his fellow servants saw what had happened, they were deeply disturbed and went to their master and reported the whole affair. His master summoned him and said to him, "You wicked servant, I forgave you your entire debt because you begged me to. Should you not have had pity on your fellow servant as I had pity on you?" Then, in anger, his master handed him over to the torturers until he should pay back the whole debt. So will my heavenly Father do to you, unless each of you forgives his brother from his heart. When Jesus finished these words, he left Galilee and went to the district of Judea across the Jordan. Reflections. In the parable of the unforgiving servant, the king is a clear image of God sovereign, just and yet overwhelmingly merciful. The servant as unpayable debt reflects the weight of our sin, a burden so great that no amount of effort or time on our part could ever settle it. On our own, we stand powerless before the holiness of God. And yet the gospel reveals a profound truth at the heart of our faith. God as mercy surpasses justice. The servant begs only for more time, for patience, hoping to somehow work off the impossible. But the king responds with something far greater, complete forgiveness. This is the scandalous generosity of divine mercy. As Catholics, we recognize this particularly in the sacrament of reconciliation, where we come as debtors acknowledging our sin and are met not with condemnation, but with grace. Christ, through his sacrifice on the cross, has paid the debt we could never repay. But the parable also comes with a challenge. The forgiven servant fails to extend the mercy he received to another. Jesus makes it clear, those who have been forgiven must become instruments of that same mercy. Our response to God's forgiveness must be a life marked by compassion, humility, and forgiveness toward others. Let us then approach God with sincere contrition, trusting not in our ability to repay, but in his infinite love. And may we, as forgiven children of the Father, become reflections of his mercy in a world so in need of grace. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful.